Skirk, Mavuika, Emilie, or Shenhe. We got a couple of interesting characters on this version's banners. In this video, I'll be helping you guys choose the best ones for your account. I'll just be listing the pros and cons and when you should get every single character of these. Without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so starting off with the new character on this patch, which is going to be Skirk. Skirk is going to be just a Cryo main DPS. Her role is just a simple Cryo on-field main DPS. She has a couple different playstyles and stuff like that, but it all lays down to her being a Cryo main DPS. That's just her main role. So straight away, moving on to the pros about Skirk. First of all, she's going to have pretty high damage. I want to say high, I mean high. Now, it depends on her teams. Obviously, we're going to talk about that more in a little bit, but in her top teams, it can be the highest damage in the game, just straight up. She's definitely going to be an S tier character competing with other top DPSs in the game we have right now, like Mavuika, Neviette, Arlecchino, and so on. And she is better than them with her top teams. Her damage also scales super well with constellations if you're trying to go with any of them. So the more constellations you get, the crazier her damage gets, that's for sure. So if you're looking for like a damage powerhouse without, thinking about anything, then she's definitely a good character to go for. Second pro about her is that she's going to have a pretty versatile playstyle. You can use her as more of like a burst DPS or a normal attacks DPS if you prefer any of them, which is pretty good. Pretty versatile, you won't get bored of her, and her kit is going to be pretty exciting overall. The last pro about her is that she's going to have self-sufficient buffs with normal attacks and bursts and stuff like that. Now, don't get this wrong, she's going to need pretty strict teammates on her teams for her to perform like pretty well, but she needs them as in like not on like strict rotations or anything like this. She needs them just to be there mainly. But her self buffs and stuff like that are going to be just self-sufficient, which means she's going to be more easier to play when you actually play her. But yeah, really, that's pretty much it for pros. And honestly, you cannot really expect as much when you have just a main DPS in general. Their main pro is that how much damage they deal, and she deals a lot of damage, so that's enough. You don't expect her to be like some sort of supernatural character and like that, even though she is. Well, I'm just saying, like, even though there are not many pros listed, the main pro is that she deals a lot of damage, and it's the most important one. But now moving on to her cons, which are the bad things about Skirk. In my opinion, the biggest and maybe only con about her is that she's going to have highly limited team comps. And I mean very limited team comps. She's going to require very specific characters for her to perform at her top levels. And without them, her damage is going to fall significantly. Her top teams are going to be way ahead of her like average teams. I will generally place her as like a whole tier under her like normal tier with like suboptimal teams. If you don't have her best teammates, she generally just falls to like an A tier DPS in my opinion. So if you don't have characters like, for example, Escoffier or Fiorina or Shenhe or whatever, at least some of them, her damage is going to go terrible just straight away. So yeah, her teams are going to be pretty limited, both in like type of teams. She only can be played in basically like freeze teams, and also in the specific teammates in this type of team. It's not only just freeze team, it's very specific freeze teams. So yeah, it's going to be a big problem, especially because a lot of these teammates are going to be expensive 5-star teammates, which I would guess a lot of people may not have them just stacked ready for her. So yeah, in my opinion, this is the biggest con about Skirk. But in general, she's just like a normal, the normal good DPS we've seen throughout the game. Just very limited teams, very high damage, but not versatile overall. She just pushes that more to another level in my opinion. She has extreme damage, but with also extremely limited teams. She's genuinely one of the most like niche team characters I've seen in a while, but she's also the highest damage character we've seen in the game so far. So yeah, you do that whenever you want. Now, moving on to the second character on this patch, which is going to be Mavuika. She's going to be running alongside Skirk. Mavuika is the Pyro DPS. She can be used as a main DPS on field, but what's also more interesting about her is that you can also use her as an off-field sub-DPS. That's gonna make her pretty versatile. For her pros, she's gonna have top tier DPS. She's definitely like a top 4 or 5 DPS in the game right now, like on-field normal DPS, and she's also gonna have good sub-DPS. It's not like top tier sub-DPS, but it's definitely good sub-DPS, and also Pyro application. Her Pyro application is gonna be pretty good, especially for some teams that need like more slow intervals like Pyro application. That's not going to overwhelm their elements, for example like melt teams and stuff like that, or like vaporize teams with Mulanni. Her Pyro application is just going to be perfect. And finally, the last pro about her is that she's going to be a pretty versatile character. As you guys see, she can be used as a main DPS, sub DPS, and she also has a lot of good teams in general, with some exceptions, and those are moving on to her cons. The only con I can think of about Mavuika honestly is that she's going to need Natlan specific teams, or at least some Natlan teammates depending on what constellations you have her and what teams you'd want to play her in. She needs like her stacks stacks, which she gains from Natlan teammates. And if you don't have a Natlan teammate, then you're gonna struggle with her burst. So yeah, in my opinion, that's the only and biggest con about Mavuika. Now she can work in some like non-Natlan teams, and there are also many like free-to-play friendly Natlan 4-star characters that you can just throw with her at any team, and you know, you can make her work. But that's still a big con, that she requires at least like 1 or 2 Natlan characters on her teams for it to function properly. Moving on to the third character on this patch, which is going to be Emilie. Emilie is just going to be an off-field Dendro sub-DPS. That's pretty much it. She just deals damage off-field, Dendro damage. She applies Dendro and also deals a lot of Dendro damage. And her pros are pretty much just stats. She's going to deal very good off-field Dendro DPS, and she's also going to have great Dendro application. She's definitely going to be a top-tier sub-DPS. Her damage is going to be top-tier compared to like other off-field sub-DPSs, and that's pretty good. Another pro about her is that she's going to be the queen of burn-in teams. If you're going for burn-in teams, then her damage is going to skyrocket like multiple times. So if you're trying to go for like niche burn-in teams, then Emilie is definitely a character you want to go for. If you want to have any combinations of like Pyro, Dendro characters on your teams, then Emilie is going to be a great addition. She's just going to be adding a lot more damage, just off-field passive, which is super good. Now, moving on to her cons, the only con about her is that she's not that good outside of burn-in teams. Outside of burn-in teams, her sub-DPS damage is not going to be that high. It's still going to be decent, but it will be more like A, B tier. But in burn-in teams, her off-field damage is going to be like super high. So outside of burn-in teams, she's not going to be like super good. You can still use her as like a Dendro off-field, you know, sub-DPS, but her true potential is only unlocked in burn-in teams. So outside of that niche, if you're not really going for burn-in teams, she might not be like the great sub-DPS or even the great Dendro like applicator you'd want to go for. There are many characters who can just give you buffs, for example, like Naida or whatever. Now, finally, moving on to the final character on this patch, which is going to be Shenhe. Now, Shenhe came out a long time ago, back in like version 2 point something, and she was niche back then, and she is still niche now. She's mainly just like cryo and physical support. If you have any cryo main DPS or physical main DPS, then Shenhe is probably going to be one of their best supports. But outside of that, she's going to be pretty much useless. That has always been the thing with Shenhe, and it still is right now. Not much has changed. So yeah, for pros, she's going to have good cryo support. She's going to be, you know, a damage buffer. She's just gonna give flat buffs to your cryo and physical damage, like whether it's your normal attacks, burst damage, whatever. She can give you great resistance shred both to physical and cryo damage, obviously, which is very needed in like cryo heavy teams. And she's also a very good cryo applicator on her own. She does apply a lot of like cryo, which is super good. The second pro is that she's also pretty easy to play and cheap to build. She doesn't really require that much field time. She's pretty simple, straightforward, as long as you have enough energy recharge. Now it's gonna be one of the easiest characters you can incorporate on your teams. You also have a lot of free to play options, and she really doesn't need much in general. For her cons, as I said before, she only works in mainly cryo and some physical teams. Outside of that, she just falls off dramatically. She's very, very niche. She's gonna be super good on like cryo teams and stuff like that, but outside of them, she's just gonna be pretty much useless. You never want to use Shenhe in like a pyro team, for example, or I don't know, whatever. So yeah, for Shenhe, it's just that if you have a good cryo DPS, cryo team, whatever, she's gonna be super good, but if you don't, then just don't get her. Same with Emilie with Burn-in. Alright, so now that we quickly went through every single character, explained them, listed their pros and cons, let me give you guys the final conclusion on how should you wish and who should you go for in this batch. So, first of all, straight up starting off with the best value character, in my opinion, on this batch, I think it's going to be Mavuika. Mavuika as the Pyro Archon is going to be pretty versatile, and she's going to be both great as a main DPS and also a sub-DPS. Her main DPS capabilities are going to be some of the greatest in the game. They may not be as good as Skirk in her like top teams, but they're definitely pretty close. And I feel like she's much less restricted than Skirk. And that's crazy to say because even Mavuika is kind of restricted, as I said before. You'll need some Natlan characters and stuff like that, but that's still like much better than Skirk in terms of like restrictions. And also you can use her as a sub-DPS, Pyro sub-DPS, and also Pyro applicator, and she's gonna be great in a lot of teams. So in my opinion, she's gonna have tremendous value, especially for free-to-play players. There are also a lot of like free-to-play teams with her, with free-to-play Natlan characters, if you already got them, or around, for example, Kashina, whatever. So she's gonna have great value on your account, and I do think everyone should probably get Mavuika. You probably have some of her possible teammates, and you can make great teams with Mavuika. She's gonna be pretty versatile and a great addition to your account. I also don't think she's falling off anytime soon or getting power crept. So yeah, in my opinion, I think Mavuika is definitely the great pick on this patch if you don't have Now for the rest of the characters, starting off with Skirk, I think you should get her if you need a main DPS. That's like specifically the thing you need, and you also already have some of her best teammates. As I said before, you have like Fiorina, Shenhe, and Escoffier. In my opinion, if you're planning to get Skirk, you need to plan to also have at least 2 of these characters. Preferably Fiorina and Escoffier. And Escoffier already had like in the previous patch, so she probably won't be rerunning anytime soon, so keep that in mind. But if you already got like Escoffier, you already got Fiorina, then Skirk might be a better option than Mavuika if you need a main DPS specifically. If you want to go for like a top tier, the best main DPS in the game, you already have some of her good teammates like Shenhe and Fiorina, or Fiorina and Escoffier, then going for Skirk might be a good option too. But if you're like new to the game or you don't have that many characters, I definitely wouldn't recommend building a team around Skirk, because then you'll need to get Skirk and then you'll have to get Shenhe, which is also straight after her, so you're probably gonna be tight on primogems, and then you'll need to get Fiorina, Escoffier, whatever, which are all expensive characters. So yeah, I don't think Skirk is gonna be worth it for a lot of players unless you already have the team for her like just there and ready. For Shenhe and Emilie, I think they're pretty niche characters. As I explained before, you should get them if you already have the teams for them too. For example, get Shenhe if you had Skirk, or if you have like a main DPS that needs a Cryo buffer, Aika for example, Ganyu, whatever. And same with Emilie, if you have like a burning team ready, then again, Emilie is just gonna raise the DPS of that team significantly. But outside of that, they won't really be characters that are gonna be great for your account. So yeah, for Shenhe and Emilie, just get them if you need them. If you want a great value, you know, free-to-play friendly character, go for Mavuika. If you want the best DPS in the game right now with crazy damage, and you already have some of her best teammates, or at least you're planning to get them, then in that case you can go for Skirk. But yeah, tell me what you guys are going to be pulling for in the comments. If you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next video. Peace.